Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With me today is Daniel McAdams. Good to see you.
Good morning, Dr. Paul.
Very good. I'm going to talk a little bit about Korea. It's been in the news, and
yes.
That is, when's the war going to start? It's almost like that. But from our side of the pond, this in our country and those diplomats around the world that represent us, it just seems like in the last week or two that North Korea has become an obsession.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of wars going on. You know, we have them in quite a few countries, and we have our military around the world, and there's no talk of which ones are coming home. You know, just recently we hear that we may start bombing in the Philippines.
Yes.
You know, I thought we had enough problems. But no, real war. And it's not a new war for us against North Korea. It's the continuation of a war that was illegitimate to begin with. And I remember it well, you know, because I remember one of my teachers from my high school class, was drafted back. He had been in the military in World War II and for the Korean War. But this is a continuation. But it's been building and building, and my estimation, and I think it's on the conservative side. If you look at what we spent in managing Korea, the Korean Peninsula, in the last 55 years, since World War II, I think in today's dollars, we've spent over $1 trillion. And look at the mess we have. And now it looks like the determination is when are we going to deal with North Korea because they're about to bomb Chicago. Yeah. And some people would say, well, Chicago's okay. But no, the war drums are beating. And it's getting bad. I think it's very, very dangerous. And this is what the promoters say. It's very, very dangerous. But they see UN as the danger to world order, not our foreign policy. And yet, a poll out recently, the people around the world, increasingly so, see the United States as the country that poses the greatest threat to freedom. And to me, it is really tragic because I don't want to even agree with that, but the evidence is building that that is the case.
It's a little disheartening that they're using the same propaganda to the same effect. It reminds us of back in 2002, Saddam has mobile drones that can strike the U.S. at any time. Here we have, Kim has ICBMs that can hit Chicago, New York. It's just designed to terrify people to the conclusion that something's got to be done. Something's got to be done. You know, and this, probably the reason we're talking about this today is the UN Security Council Resolution 2371, which passed unanimously over the weekend, and it adds, you're going to be surprised, more sanctions. That's the key. More sanctions on North Korea. It's going to cut their exports by 1/3. They think that will cripple the country enough that he'll change his behavior. That would be a first.
You know, and some people, including myself and others, seem to be joining in, that when you look at sanctions, honestly, it is an act of war already. The prohibition of a country to trade or go in and out of the country, and we do it all the time. I mean, we're in the big business of sanctions, and it's always done by those who profess to be the free traders of the world. That is always the inconsistency. But yes, the sanctions are on there. They're determined. But our biggest problem is the image and the personality of the head honcho of North Korea. He makes himself so vulnerable. It's so easy to attack him. If they had a more reasonable, sensible person to present his case, because his case isn't as crazy as some people think, you know, because all he has done is he is threatening. You do this, this, this. It's always, if you do something to me, I'm going to do something to you. What is it in our case? If you don't do what we tell you, this is what we're going to do to you. Yeah. And why should he buy into that with our record? You know, we got Gaddafi to get rid of his nukes, and we took care of Saddam Hussein, and we worked out a pretty good agreement, you know, with Iran, but you know, the administration doesn't even want to honor that agreement. So anytime a country, nutty as they might be, you know, logically moves away from, their aggressive, spirit and policies, the worse we treat them. And so he's acting in a very logical manner, but that doesn't mean that he's a good guy.
Yeah.
It just means that if we have a policy designed by not interpreting what he is doing, then we become the danger person, because the talk now is have a nuclear first strike. Yeah. Not a nuclear first strike, but a first strike, but nothing is off the table. Yeah. My answer to this is, they're always saying, we won't take anything off the table, yet they do take off common sense. You're not allowed to have common sense. Don't deal with that. But nothing is off the table. It's too bad they don't use common sense in our foreign policy.
And I'm not even that convinced about the whole nutty thing, because I think this is used as a propaganda tool over and over. You remember when they wanted to go to war with Saddam, they kept showing that reel of him shooting his gun off the balcony over and over and over. That's one thing that he did in decades of running the country. Just like they always show, look at you say maybe if he was less nutty, but look at someone like Assad, he looks like the opposite of nutty. He's an eye doctor. He looks like an eye doctor, but they portray him as a nut. I think they have to do that. And in fact, what's interesting is Dan Coates, who's the director of national intelligence, pretty important job. He was at the Aspen Security Summit not long ago, and he said, actually, he leaked out some sensible things. He said, number one, Kim is acting in a very rational way. He seems like a rational guy. The other thing he said is that Kim has learned the lessons from Libya. He said, if you have nukes, never give them up. If you don't have them, do your best to get them. That's what Coates said.
And somebody wrote recently that if he doesn't appear to have, and maybe has something nobody really knows, but what if he has something that if he had not had that policy, North Korea would have been gone? And people say, yeah, that's exactly what we want. But how many people have to die over it? I see the tragedy of our policy right now is we're taking literally hundreds of thousands of people, maybe up to 1 million South Koreans and their pawns. They are going to be sacrificial lambs. Because let's say tomorrow they have identified 4 spots in North Korea where they have nuclear activity. And the original reason they wanted nuclear activity was they were threatened to lose their oil, and it was the same old story of Iran. But if we tomorrow take those out and say, see, we got rid of them and now there's going to be peace in the world, then maybe no nukes would fly from North Korea. They're not going to hit LA, and there's no way that they're ready to do that, but Seoul could get hit. So we are playing with fire, and it isn't UN that will make that break out. It will be our aggression. And that is so sad and so discomforting to me to say that we have to stop aggression and then pin it down and say that we're in the business of empire building and aggression. That is tragic, and yet in a moral sense, we have to speak out.
And I think, this resolution that passed, if it's a UN Security Council resolution, that means it has to be unanimous. That means that China and Russia voted for it. And I have to say, I think it was very stupid for both of them to vote for it. And they've said in statements after that, we hope this will change North Korea's behavior. We hope that this will ratchet down the tension. It'll have the opposite effect. They should have learned the lesson from UN Security Council Resolution 1973 in March of 2011. If you remember, that was about Libya. And the Russians thought, okay, we'll go along with this. If we just vote yes, a couple days later, the bombs were flying. So I think they're making a very, very bad mistake by voting for this, by going along with it. The neocons want war no matter what, and this gives them ammo. And here's what Trump said. Here's the goal of the U.S., to denuclearize and disarm North Korea. What country would do that? None. So I think this is set up to fail. This sanctions are set up to fail. They want a pretext for war. Russia and China fell into the trap, walked into the trap.
For the hysterical reaction by our government about the great danger, not admitting that we're, part of creating this great danger, that if you look at the strength of North Korea, that's capable of intimidating these guys, but they're really not. What they're doing is our government is using him as an excuse. He's the ploy. You know, they set him up and to target him because they have other ulterior motives. But he is an individual they can target easy. But you know, other countries have nukes. You know, they're trying to start at least the Cold War again with Russia and China. They fuss with them. They have nukes. What about Pakistan? Pakistan is not exactly a model for democracy, but they don't go. They're not threatening anybody. It seems like there's more peace when both sides have something. But of course, if I had my druthers, there'd be none at all. You know. But I think under the circumstances that this is just building up, and it's very, very dangerous, but it's not going to happen by North Korea capitulating. You know, to me, it's sort of like, how many years did we have sanctions and punishments on Cuba? And the same way with North Korea, which proves it doesn't work. So here, this $1 trillion we've spent, it is nothing but chaotic, and there's some more disruption and danger than ever before. And the reason why that happens is their systems aren't any good. If you just leave them alone, they'd collapse like the Soviet system did. But we help them by attacking the Castros or the Kims, and then they say it's all America's fault. It's all America's fault. They don't turn around and blame the economy. But why do we put on sanctions? Oh, we'll get the people upset with their government, and they'll overthrow the government. So what do? We punish the people. The people get killed. Right now, what about this message? Just how long have we been in Syria now, in Raqqa? We're still bombing over there, although they're close to having a lot more peace. So we're in there still bombing ISIS, and there were, 43 civilians killed. Plus they hit a hospital. And it just makes no sense for us to continue this foreign policy and then brag about us bringing peace and prosperity to the world.
Well, the pretext for this UN Security Council resolution is the fact that North Korea tested another missile. That's the big thing. How dare you test this missile? We have a graphic up here that's going to maybe make some people laugh. Uh-oh, look at this. U.S. tests intercontinental ballistic missile. So it's, once again, the world sees this. It's okay if we do it, no problem, but don't you dare do it.
Yeah, well, when you're an empire, you have to maintain your empireship, and that's what we're doing. And I think the empire manipulators, the deep state, who has their interest in this, they are getting a little annoyed or frightened by this because, there was a time in the early years of the empire that we were on the popular side of issue and actually improved conditions, but now we're losing that, but we're also losing the financial power that we've had before because there's been a pretty strong attack on the dollar, which will continue, and I think they're thinking about the future, and therefore the worse things get, the more aggressive the sides get, just like domestically within our own Congress, as they're being threatened more economically and nobody has enough money, then they go after each other. And that's what's going to happen internationally as we lose this power. And that means that we're more likely to do dumb things in order to prove that we are still the king of the hill.
Yeah. I guess the final thing that I'm thinking is I think people in Washington know this. We talked about Sebastian Gorka, one of the top advisors of the president, the other day. Here's what he had to say just a few hours ago to the media. I think this is another inconvenient truth that they really believe that is true. He said, North Korea is a Lilliputian nation when you compare it to our capabilities.
Right.
So where's this big threat? No. So he's trying to brag at how strong we are, and it's absolutely true. As you pointed out there the other day, their GDP is half the size of Vermont's, I think it was, wasn't it? So this is designed to fail. This is designed to allow the U.S. to have a preemptive war. If I were the South Koreans, I honestly would be in the streets. A couple million of them telling their government, don't go along with it.
we talk about third world nations. I don't even think they qualify.
Yeah.
They're like a
Fourth or fifth, yeah.
So, but the determination, actually, McMaster's is behind a lot of this strong rhetoric on what we have to do. But he had a quote this week about his diplomatic caution that he will exert before he goes willy-nilly off bombing somebody, which sort of bugged me a little bit because I think it's such a falsehood. And he's talking about his thoughts about this. Yeah, we're thinking about a first strike, a military first strike. I think it depends on the legal justifications for that. That's really complicated, isn't it? Yeah, aggression, how do you do it? Well, no, he has to find another justification. And this goes back to the just war theory. He respects the just war theory. And what is the nature of the risk? And does that risk justly acting in defense of your people and your vital interests? In other words, he's going to hide behind the just war theory and justify this because this is the only way that he can defend against this country destroying America. And a country that has not one single military unit outside their borders. They have essentially nothing, and they're intimidating us by saying, well, don't bomb us because we can do a little bit of harm to you and to your allies, which he can. So they should just forget about this bombing North Korea, and they ought to, at least respect and let the peace movement thrive in South Korea. There's actually a peace movement there, and it was reflected in their election. But then, when we get there, we, own South Korea. So if they don't do exactly what we tell them, then there's trouble. But there are a lot of people in South Korea, and that is why the worst thing we ever did, after World War II, we divided Korea up between Russia and United States.
Yeah.
That didn't do well, but they should have just let Korea develop their own country, which eventually happened in Vietnam, which was a much better solution when the Vietnamese decided what they want. Let the Koreans decide. Yeah. What a terribly dangerous idea of letting the Koreans decide what they want to do with their peninsula.
Yeah.
A little summary statement there.
I think maybe McMaster maybe have a pronunciation problem. We look at it and we pronounce it as just war. We want a just war. I think he pronounces it just war. Yeah. Just war. That's his theory.
Oh, that's a shame to take that very good intention about trying to limit war with Christian beliefs. But nevertheless, I think that in this past couple weeks, Korea has moved way up on the list of being the next target, but tomorrow may be another day and something else might happen. And this whole idea that empire is determined to exist and persist, I think is the real problem. But we'll run out of steam and we're going to run out of money and we're going to run out of countries to invade and it'll have to be reversed. But right now, all I would like to see happen will be for the American people to wake up and say, it doesn't make any sense for us to accelerate the war against North Korea and start bombing North Korea. They're not going to bomb LA. And I guarantee that if we had a different policy, we wouldn't even be talking about this problem that we have in the Far East and dealing with Korea. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.